أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. I send my condolences to صاحب العصر والزمان, to the ulama, to the atqiya, to the mu'mineen, mu'minat, for the strike, the wound of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, the strike that shook the world, shook the pillars of the Kaaba itself, the strike that allowed Jibreel alayhi salam's voice to be heard by all human beings, the voice that allowed the strike, the wound that allowed the voice of Jibreel, who was only known to the Prophet and maybe a few other immaculate individuals, prophets, such, to be heard by everyone. It allowed Jibreel alayhi salam to come out of that special place that only people of high status would be able to access, to come out of that special place, that special realm, scream between the heavens and the earth. Tahaddamat wallah arkanul huda. The pillars of guidance have been crumbled and destroyed, all for the death of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. We will begin the majlis, my brothers and sisters, first and foremost with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا حبيب الله. Peace and blessings be upon you, Ya Rasul Allah. Peace and blessings be upon you, O beloved of Allah. Sallallahu alayka ya Mawlai wa ibn Mawlai يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا مولاي ومولى المؤمنين يا أمير المؤمنين. Peace and blessings be upon you, my master, and the master of all of the mu'mineen, the prince of believers, Ali ibn Abi Talib. السلام عليك يا قائد الغر المحجلين إلى جنات النعيم. Peace and blessings, O you, who is the guide to heaven and the path to Allah's mercy. السلام عليك يا مظلوم يا مقهور يا مقتول. Peace and blessings be upon you, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, O you who is oppressed, Oh, you whose honor, whose right was taken away from him. Oh, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, tonight we remember you as you laid in your house after you were struck in Masjid al-Kufa. How ironic is it that you are born in the Masjid of Allah Himself, in the home of God, and you die in the home of God. The world welcomed you by splitting open the most immaculate home, and the world bid farewell from you when it allowed the likes of Ibn Muljim to hit you. Assalamu alayka ya mawlai wa ibn mawlai wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Our first salawat for the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam Allah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Our second salawat, my brothers and sisters, for the love of Sayyidah Zainab alayha salam Allah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And the third one is for the one that we console today, tomorrow, the day after. Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman alayhi salam Allah, with your loudest voices. Allahumma salli. They ask me to describe Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And so I sat and I tried to write words that would describe the likes of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Anytime I try to write an adjective, anytime I try to write a word, it's as if the pen itself would refuse to write. Anytime I tried to write a letter, it's as if the paper itself would not allow anything to be scribed on it. Because the intellect does not truly know Amir al-Mu'mineen. And so when the hand tries to write, it refuses. And if one way or another we force the hand to write something about Ali ibn Abi Talib, then the universe itself refuses, the likes of me, to describe Ali alayhi salam. And so I sat perplexed, not knowing what to do. On one hand, I have to stand in front of you and describe Ali on this night. On another hand, the entire universe stands in front of me and says, someone like you can't begin to describe Ali. And so I ask the universe, and so if somebody wants to know Ali alayhi salam, how should he know him? Because you only know a person through their description and the attributes, the characteristics that they have. And so the universe answered, let me tell you about Ali. For the only way that you know about Ali alayhi salam is when history speaks of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Because history is objective. History is not like me and you. We hold biases. We try and paint a picture that is most suitable to what we believe and what makes us comfortable. History, my brothers and sisters, has no biases. History is brutally honest, tells you the reality as to what it is. Sometimes that reality is not something that you can accept, especially if the reality of someone that we consider to be high and holy was not such in history. At the same time, if there's somebody in history that me and you can never understand, their value surpasses what human beings can comprehend. History will come and tell us of who they were objectively. Because only history can really confine or hold, rather, the value of such an individual. For history, my brothers and sisters, speaks of time, space, matter of the past. And if the only thing that can describe for you who this immaculate individual was the time that he lived in and the space that he occupied, then so be it. And so I stand in front of the universe. I stand in front of the universe a listener, rather a student, listening to the teacher attentively. As history tells me, Ali alayhi salam was not only unknown, Ali alayhi salam was misused. Ali alayhi salam's value was known to select few, rather was known to only two, was known to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and was known to his Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, Ya Ali, no one knows God except me and you, and no one knows me except you and God, and no one knows you except God and myself. And so Ali alayhi salam's value was not known. History begins and says, I welcomed Ali into this world 30 years before his birth. Rather, Ali alayhi salam welcomed me into existence. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was born, riwayat say the world changed to welcome Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The statues, the idols were found either crumbled or on their faces. The sky changed for Rasulullah. The world illuminated to welcome Rasulullah. The seven skies themselves were closed for the likes of Satan and those that were ascending through them. The world welcomed Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam with everything that it had. But to speak of Rasulullah, the universe knew that the name Ali alayhi salam would soon come. For whenever you say Muhammad ibn Abdullah, shortly after comes Ali ibn Abi Talib. And that's exactly what happened. The riwayah says in Rawdatul Wa'idhin that when Amina bint Wahab gave birth to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the mother of Ali, Fatima bint Asad, was there with her. She witnessed what Amina witnessed and saw what Amina saw. She welcomed the last of prophets. And when the prophecy was known and Rasulullah was known to have arrived by those who are on the path of Ibrahim, the Jews, the Christians, people knew that the universe changing meant the coming of a new prophet. Amina went to Abu Talib alayhi salam. And she said to him, I saw what I saw when Amina was giving birth. She gave birth to an immaculate child, a special child, a child that is going to do great things, a child that will change the world as we know it, a child that will be the most influential man to walk on the face of earth. And so he said to her, انتظري سبتا تأتين بمثله. Wait 30 years, as sabt is 30 years. Wait 30 years and you will give birth to one like him. And so 30 years later, after a long period of time, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was welcomed into this world. And so I sat in front of history and I said, history, How was Ali welcomed into this world? He looked at me and he said, listen, it is said Fatima bint Asad went to the Kaaba on the day she gave birth to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. She stood in front of the Kaaba. She felt that she was about to give birth. And so she turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and said, by God, my God, by the right of this child that is in my womb, I ask you to make my birth easy, to help me, to aid me. The riwayah says, all of a sudden, the wall of the Kaaba itself splits open. It breaks open to welcome Ali ibn Abi Talib. The same way that the father does not merely open the door when something extravagant happens in his home. If the father knows that something extravagant, a miracle happened in his home, he will burst that door wide open, breaking the lock, breaking the door even. The Kaaba didn't open its door for Ali. The Kaaba opened its wall for Ali. She went in. She gave birth to Ali alayhi salam, wanted to name him Haydar. And this will help us later on, history tells us. He says, history tells me, wait, keep that name with you, because you're going to use it later on to know the value of Ali. She wanted to name him Haydar, which was the name of the lion. The name of the lion. All of a sudden, she either hears a voice or gets inspiration. Name him Ali. And so she named him Ali for his love. You tell me, Ahmad, today is the day Imam Ali alayhi salam was wounded. You tell us of the birth of Ali. I tell you yes. Because after you hear that the pillars of guidance have been broken and destroyed and crumbled, the wall of the Kaaba opening up, it starts to give meaning. It starts to have more of a meaning. If at the birth of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the wall of the Kaaba broke, then at the death of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the very pillars of the Kaaba crumbled. It's as if the Kaaba gave birth to Amir al-Mu'mineen. But just like the mother that hears of the death of its child, she crumbles. And so the Kaaba crumbled yesterday, my brothers and sisters. Naam. The pillars of guidance were broken. And so I sit in front of history and I say, that is merely his birth. If the birth was that miraculous, if the birth was that astonishing, then what is to come of the life of this individual? And he begins. He says, Ali alayhi salam was the only one to never, ever bow to a statue, never bow to an idol, was the one that always worshipped God and knew God. For he was the manifestation of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even before the risala, before the message, Ali alayhi salam knew what was to come. Ali alayhi salam accompanied Rasulullah, was brought up by the Prophet himself, to the degree where one who would look at the Prophet would think Ali was his child. He would follow him wherever he went. He would be with him when he worshipped the one God. And ultimately was the first to declare his Islam according to some riwayat. And according to Ali alayhi salam himself, where he calls himself al-awwal wal-akhir, he's the first one to declare his Islam. When Rasulullah declared his Islam, Ali alayhi salam put his body, put his status, everything that he had on the line. to protect Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, until it got to a point where Rasulullah was not welcomed in Mecca anymore. And Mecca could not encompass Rasulullah anymore. And Rasulullah had to migrate. So Ali alayhi salam stood in front of Rasulullah and said, Rasulullah, how do I sacrifice myself to you? How do I protect you in this night? Rasulullah said to him, sleep in my bed and protect me. Ali alayhi salam didn't ask, will I be safe? He said, Ya Rasulullah, will you be safe? Will the religion of God live on? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, yes. As I listen, I can't help but remember Ismail alayhi salam, where Nabi Ibrahim comes to him and says, oh Ismail, I seen in my dream that I slaughter you. And so Ismail alayhi salam says, Aba fa'al ma tu'mar. Father, do as you see fit and do as you're commanded. For if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to make me an example for his religion in the future, wants to build around my name, Ismail, the Kaaba, the Manasik, then my neck, my blood is on the line for Allah. Then this sacrifice is worth. And so Ibrahim alayhi salam put Ismail down and was about to sacrifice him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him ultimately and said, لَقَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. You passed the test. Similarly, Ali alayhi salam played the role of Ismail to his Ibrahim. He sat in the bed of Rasulullah, contemplating what is to come. He laid down knowing that there will be people coming in the night to try and kill him, thinking he was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah slipped free, was on his way to Medina. Ali alayhi salam was in the bed of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ultimately, Ali alayhi salam was saved, only to take the Fawatim, Sayyid al-Zahra alayhi salam, Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and Fatima bint al-Hamza with him to Medina. On their way, men stand in front of them trying to stop them. Ali alayhi salam protects them, just as he protected Rasulullah and made it clear to everyone who the equal of Fatima alayhi salam was, and that itself is an honor that history itself does not understand. Rather, history narrated for me the immaculate marriage between the two Anwar, between the two lights, between the sun and the moon, where they came together and gave about the planets that hold together our very solar system. Ali and Fatima. When others came to Fatima and asked for her hand, she frowned. When others came to Fatima and asked for her hand, they were the wealthiest of Quraysh, the most influential, the known. And Rasulullah himself declined. But when Ali came, he was welcomed, for he was the equal of Fatima. What am I to say about Ali? I sat and I listened as history spoke, and history kept going. He said Ali alayhi salam did not stop there. He stood in front of Rasulullah when others ran. When others ran for 3 days straight, Ali alayhi salam put his chest on the line, defended Rasulullah when he fell in the battle of Uhud. When others knocked on the door of Khaybar, waving the white flags to surrender, Ali alayhi salam rips the door of Khaybar off its hinges. when the Prophet sieged Khaybar, Ali alayhi salam was nowhere to be seen. And so those that were there used it as a means to gain the confidence of Rasulullah, tried to take advantage of the moment where the man of the hour was not seen, where the destroyer of the Arabs was not there, where the one who showed his loyalty in Uhud and Badr was not there to claim his throne. They tried to seek advantage. And so the first was let, and he led a group, but utterly came back, failed to open the door of Khaybar, who no man before him was able to open. The door that needed 22 men to shake it, more or less open it. He came back and failed. The second was sent with a group of men. He attacked, came back. And the riwayah says, رَجَعَ يُجَبِّنُ أَصْحَابَهُ وَيُجَبِّنُونَهُ. He came back calling his people, those that were with him, the army, cowardly. And they called him a coward. And so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam stood in front of them and made it known. Tomorrow, I will give the flag to a man who Allah loves, and he loves Allah and his Prophet. Karrar ghayr farrar. One who will move forward and will never return, except that he has Khaybar between his hands. The next day, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stood. The men had their necks out as if to say, Rasulullah, pick me, pick me. Ali alayhi salam was still nowhere to be seen. Rasulullah looks around and says, where is Ali? They stood up and said, Ali has a problem with his eyes. Ali has pain in his eyes. He's not with us at the moment. So Rasulullah says, go and bring me Ali. Ali alayhi salam was brought. Rasulullah told him to sit and lay down and put his head in the lamp of Rasulullah. Rasulullah takes from his saliva, wipes it on the eyes of Ali alayhi salam. And now Ali alayhi salam could see the goal in front of him. Khaybar. Ali stands. Was given the flag. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made it known and said, this is the man that loves Allah and his Prophet, and Allah and his Prophet love him. Karrar ghayr farrar. He took the flag. He got himself ready for battle. He went in front of the men, went in front of the fort, went in front of that door and stood. Who came out to stand in front of him? A man by the name of Al-Harith. Who was Al-Harith? Al-Harith was the brother of the king of Khaybar. The king of Khaybar was Marhab. His brother was Al-Harith, a fierce soldier, a soldier worth hundreds of men. Back then, the Arabs, they used to equate the value of a soldier to how many men he's equal to on the battlefield. Harith was an army within himself. He stood in front of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, thinking that this is just a young boy, just like those before him, he would run. He didn't know the one that was standing in front of him was the lion of Allah, was Haydar. And so Amir al-Mu'mineen defeated Harith. When Harith's death reached Marhab, Marhab knew that this man was special. But he thought, if my brother couldn't do the job, then I can. I am Marhab. I'm the king of the Jews. I created this fort. And just like this fort that can't be shaken, I can't be shaken. And so Marhab comes down. The riwayah says He holds, or he wears a stone helmet. He holds 2 spears, 2 swords, comes down looking like the angel of death himself. He stands in front of Amir al-Mu'mineen and he says, those around me know that I am Marhab, Shak al-Silah, Batalun Mujarrab, the one who holds his weapons, a man, a champion who was known. Ali alayhi salam looks at him, remembers Rasulullah's words that they know of the man who is to kill them. They know of the man who is to destroy them. Ali, you are mentioned by your name, Ilya. They know who you are. There's a prophecy about you. The prophecy was a man with the name of a lion will come and be the death of the Jews and will destroy the king of the Jews. This was the prophecy. A man with the name of a lion. And so Ali alayhi salam stands in front of him and says, أنا الذي سمتني أمي حيدر. I am the one whose mother named him Haydar, the lion. When Marhab heard the name Haydar, he doubted himself for the first time in his life. For the first time, Marhab doubted. But he moved on, kept going. He charged at Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. They exchanged blows. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam himself narrates that I hit Marhab on his head. The sword split his stone helmet, went all the way down to his teeth, and Marhab crumbled and fell before me. And Khaybar was one step closer to being taken. Did Ali alayhi salam stop there? No. He wanted to make it known for those that were trying to take advantage of his absence. He came towards the door of Khaybar. He took the door. And when he just held the door that was not shook by 22 men, shook and rattled just by the grasp of Ali. He took that door and ripped it off its hinges. The riwayah says he not only ripped it off its hinges, he took that door, threw it past the army, and it landed behind the army itself, behind the men that stood ready. Ibn Abi al-Hadid, he says, Ya qali al-bab, alladhi an hazzihi عجزت أكف 44 أقول بمثلك صميدع كلا وحاشا أن يقال لمثلك صميدع. Oh you who ripped the door that 22 men, 44 hands could not even shake. Do I call you a lion? Rather no. To call you a lion belittles the courage that you have, Ali. I sat and listened. I said, what more is there? What more is there to tell me of the value of this man? He said, after strength comes knowledge, comes morality, comes justice. You want to know a value of a man? Look at the morality he holds. And so he began to tell me when Ali became the Khalifa and said, Ali alayhi salam was not like those who came before him, was not like those that used the money of the people to buy themselves through the government, did not use the status they held to appoint their family members into places of power, did not use the power he had to change the religion to suit what he wanted, to suit what he liked, did not use the religion merely to sit on a chair. Rather, the throne of Ali was his prayer mat. Rather, the power of Ali was his morality, his moral compass. The wealth of Ali was not the gold and the silver people were running after. He saw them as merely rocks. The wealth of Ali was the knowledge that he had. And when he became the Khalifa, he made it known why his hand was raised in Khaybar and not the hands of anyone else. When he became the Khalifa, walked through the doors of Kufa, the doors that ultimately would lead him to his death. He stood in front of them and said, if you see me wearing other than this jacket, then know that I've stolen from your money. Because the people were fed up. The people revolted against those that were stealing their money. And so Ali made it clear. And yes, that jacket did not come off the back of Ali alayhi salam. Ali alayhi salam, who would stay up during the day and keep up his work until the last hours of the day, keep himself going, working for the Muslimin, would not even light a candle if it wasn't for the Muslimin themselves, would go back home with one of his companions after a long day. The companion would tell Ali alayhi salam, Ya Ali, let's rest, let's sleep. We have a big day tomorrow. We have work. We're overworking ourselves. We're exhausted. So Ali alayhi salam would sit and rest for a small portion until after some time he would get up. The companion who probably didn't even fall asleep yet sees Ali alayhi salam getting up and doing his wudu, tells him, Ya Ali, you need your rest. You have work to do. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, meaning of what he says, if during the day is for the people and during the night is for myself, then what is for Allah? My days are for the people and my nights are for God. That's why, my brothers and sisters, on this night, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, rather the night before, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was in the house of Zainab. He was having his iftar, and it was said that he used to have iftar one day at the house of Imam al-Hassan, another day at the house of Imam al-Hussein, the other day with Kulthum, another day with Zainab. Subhanallah. How al-Masa'ib alayha salamullah gets the brunt of everything. That night, Amir al-Mu'mineen was in the house of Zainab alayha salam. He was having his iftar. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam sits to have his iftar. He's handed a bowl with some salt, some bread, maybe some yogurt, some milk. He looks and says, do you want, meaning of what he said, do you want my stance in front of Allah to be prolonged? When have you seen me to eat so much food, a variety of food? Take off one of these things so I can eat. Ya Ali, you were scared of eating so much food when the food that you were eating was bread, maybe some yogurt, maybe some salt. Who was like you, Ya Ali? He sat, had his iftar. He prayed, did his a'mal. And he would go out in the night. He would look up at the sky. He would say, I was not lied to, nor did I lie. Today is the night that I was promised. Tonight is the night that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam promised me. Tonight is the night that I meet Rasulullah once again. Tonight is the night that I see my beloved wife Fatima. Tonight is the night that I meet Jibreel. Tonight is the night that my blood will dye my beard. Tonight is the night where the skies will cry. Tonight is the night where the stars will collide. Tonight is the night where my wood will open for the skies. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam knew that tonight would be the night that he will be struck in Kufa. It said he would pray, he would rest, he would constantly go outside and look at the sky. He would constantly say, لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Amir al-Mu'mineen got himself ready to go to Masjid al-Kufa for Fajr prayer. It said he wore his clothes, he wore his belt, he went out into the courtyard. In the courtyard, there were geese that Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam was given. When they saw Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, they began to scream in the face of Amir al-Mu'mineen, as if saying, Ya Ali, don't go, don't go, don't go. Who do we have after you, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Ya Ali? He looks to them and says, صوائح تتبعها نوائح. These are screams that after them will come cries. Amir al-Mu'mineen goes towards the door. As he opens the door clings on to his belt and gets stuck with his belt. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam loosens his belt, gets it free from the door. It's as if everything was trying to stop Amir al-Mu'mineen from going towards Masjid al-Kufa. He says his famous words, Ushdud hayazimuka lil-maut. Tighten your belt for the death that is to come, the death that is to come, each and every human being. He walks towards Masjid al-Kufa in the night. He walks into the masjid itself. He sees the people sleeping in Masjid al-Kufa. He sees Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim sleeping on his stomach, concealing the sword that will ultimately wound Amir al-Mu'mineen. It is said Amir al-Mu'mineen goes to Muljim. He looks at him and says, wake up. Allah hates the way that you sleep. This is the sleep of the shaitan. And I know what you're hiding under your clothes. Amir al-Mu'mineen goes to the mu'adhanah and begins to do adhan, waking up the people of Kufa for salat. The riwayah says he stands up, puts his hand in his ear, and begins the adhan saying, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. The people stand up. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam goes to his prayer niche. Amir al-Mu'mineen stands and the people stand behind him. Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam stands with the people. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Allahu Akbar. The people behind him to do takbiratul ihram. Amir al-Mu'mineen begins to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad, the second surah afterwards. He says Allahu Akbar. He goes down into ruku'. stands up from ruku'. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Amir al-Mu'mineen goes down to sujood. He finishes both sujood. He comes back up. He recites Surah Al-Fatiha once again. Abdul Rahman is getting himself ready. He knows this is his chance to kill Ali. This is his chance to kill the destruction of the Arabs, the killer of the Arabs himself. Amir al-Mu'mineen goes down into ruku'. Subhana Rabbi al-Azim wa bihamdih. Amir al-Mu'mineen stands up. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Amir al-Mu'mineen goes down into ruku'. Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam gets up from his spot. He breaks his salat. He gets up from his spot, goes behind one of the pillars of Masjid al-Kufa. You've been to Masjid al-Kufa, huh? You saw the pillars of Masjid al-Kufa. You saw how thick they were, how big they were. Well, they concealed Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam. He stood behind one of the pillars. Ajarakumullah. As Amir al-Mu'mineen was coming up from his sujood, Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam comes from behind Amir al-Mu'mineen. He screams, in al-hukmu illa lillah. Authority is for Allah alone, and strikes Amir al-Mu'mineen on his head. Rahim Allah man nada wa aliya wa imama wa sayyida. Amir al-Mu'mineen falls down saying, Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba. By the Lord of the Kaaba, I'm successful. All of the sudden, a voice is heard from the sky saying, Tahaddamat wallah arkanul huda. وانفصمت العروة الوثقى قتل علي المرتضى قتل علي المرتضى Ali alayhi salam has been killed. The pillars of guidance have been destroyed. The guidance himself has been killed. Ali alayhi salam has been murdered. Kufa itself shook for Ali alayhi salam. Amir al-Mu'mineen begins to take from the sands of Kufa and put them on his head. Turn towards Allah, turn towards the angels of Allah, and said, Rifqan bi ya mala'ikat Rabbi. Oh, angels of my Lord, make it easy on me. Oh Allah, make it easy on me. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. يا الله, we ask you, Ya Allah, by the right of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, to make us from those who follow in the footsteps of Amir al-Mu'mineen, to make us from those who know Amir al-Mu'mineen, to make us from those who learn from Amir al-Mu'mineen, to make us from those who cry for Amir al-Mu'mineen, to make us from those who shed a tear for Ali ibn Abi Talib, to make us from those who truly mourn Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. We ask you by the right of Amir al-Mu'mineen, by the right of the wound, the blood of Amir al-Mu'mineen, accept this majlis from us, Ya Allah. Accept our a'mal, Ya Allah. Accept our salat, Ya Allah. Accept our fast, Ya Allah. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. And for the mu'mineen and mu'minat, الشهداء والعلماء, the martyrs and the scholars, let's recite Surah Al-Mubarakah Al-Fatiha. Before it, aloud, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli.